Welcome all to Mundo Madness Monday. And I am Mundo in the house. Let's see who we got. Charlie! JT! How you guys doing, man? Yes, tonight is Wire Management Show. I think it's going to be a good topic tonight, even though I think I've done it a couple of times, or maybe one time. I think it's important that we visit these topics over and over again. Especially for the newbies that come into the hobby, so that they can see and learn a little bit, have some fun with a little bit of things and everything in between and all of that stuff. I hope you guys have had a good Monday, man. I've had a pretty decent Monday myself today, and I am like super excited for tonight's show. I'm super excited to have you guys here with me for tonight's show. And Charlie, work out hard, man. I know you're probably working out while you're gonna be listening, so have a good workout, buddy. I'm gonna drink to that. mm. This is just a rinky-dink, beer thing, but it's got a pretty strong magnet on here. I can just set it right there on my table. I don't even have to set it on top of the table. And since my drawers of my table are metal, it hangs off to the side of the table like really really good, man. So I think I'm gonna utilize that tonight and have it when I need it and grab it and then have it out of the way when I need to, right? So let's get into wire management. You know what? Hold on, guys. I'm gonna turn on the light there a little bit because I don't think that the light from the garage light is just doing not enough justice, right? Wire management, and I don't know. I know Charlie, you haven't really messed with any wires. You've got yours, already done and everything. And JT, have you have you done wiring in your Sabers? Let's see. He says that having bad wire management. Gillette's got this. Yeah, bad wire management. And I tell you, I'm pretty guilty of that right now myself, and I'm learning to try to get better wire management, right? I have a lot of issues with when I have three or more wires to put together, how to kind of get around that. And so for me, like especially if they're the 22 gauge wires, the 22 gauge wires, I've kind of like the way I'm kind of going about it, so to speak, is when I get the three wires together and then I solder them together, right? What I'm kind of doing is, when once I cut them to an appropriate, length like that, I'll kind of bend them over this way so it touches one of the other wires that are sticking the other way, whereas the other two are going this way. And so I kind of like sandwich that together with some shrink tubing, right? So it kind of squeezes it in and makes it for a little bit more manageable stuff. And so yeah, I'm trying to get myself to wire so much better than I have been before. And thanks to Rich, like I said, how he provided me with that chassis, right? Take for instance this part of the chassis that he sent me, uh, and I hand colored it, right? Hand painted it and all that good stuff. But with all these 30 gauge wires, these 30 gauge wires are pretty, they're small and everything right there, right? So they fit in here pretty, sorry guys. So they fit in here pretty good, but in tight spots, right? In tight spots, you really have to be kind of careful so that you don't really pull since they're so tiny and they're so small that you can run the risk of pulling them wherever, right? And I'm not going to pull them all the way through here because I don't need them to go through here. Eventually, they're going to go through the big hole down here, and I'm going to run that. Well, actually, I may not have to. I think I can just run these up top on here, so that they will go with everybody. And since they go to that little LED right there. And then I've got some black mesh somewhere, so I'm gonna cover this up with some black mesh since it's already like that. So that way I kind of get colored up a little bit and all that good stuff. So yeah, it'll be a little fun. I mean, it's this the memory saver is creating some problems I never expected to. Jim, I've seen a ton of bad wiring. I bet you have, dude. You haven't seen mine yet, so my wiring's like shit though. I'm trying to learn to do better wiring, right? Better wire management. So, uh, see, learning to just kind of get these things twisted up and worked out the way I need them to go and everything else. It is true, too much wire can cause power short or shut off the blade because it's crowded. Yeah, JT, yes, that's absolutely correct, dude. And I mean, it wasn't, and that's one of the reasons why I reached out to Rich, and Rich provided that chassis for me because when I first got the memory saber working, I had a lot of wires. Hey, Felicia, how you doing, Mama? I had a lot of wires going through there, right? And it looked pretty decent. I mean, I had it kind of not all over the place, so to speak, but because I did use some shrink tubing and I used gosh different methods to keep the wires together, right? And and especially some of those zip ties, right? I used some really small zip ties. But one of the things that you really don't count on when you're doing your wire management, and is if you really are not careful with it, when you're running it through stuff, um, you can scrape, the coating on those wires, right? And if one little strand hits any part of the metal on the inside, hey, Cincy, what up, my buddy, my brother? Any one little single strand that touches it can just shaft the whole thing, man. And that happened to me twice. It fried two of my boards. I mean, I couldn't understand why my my memory build would work for a little bit and then it kind of crap out, right? It worked for a good month. It crap out, and I couldn't understand what was going on. And when I took it apart, I finally understood that there were some really long wires that I've actually should have shortened down a lot more. Chet, what up? How you doing, Chet? Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here, buddy. Glad you're here, man. Um, so like I was saying, going back to the story is that you know I was playing around with the saber, and the saber all of a sudden just quit working. I charged it up. The battery was fully charged. I couldn't understand why it wasn't turning on. Well, it fried the damn board. It fried my board because of one single little strand from a wire that popped out of the jacket, right? So imagine this, and it was a 22 gauge wire. And here's what I found out: it was a 22 gauge wire, right? And I ran it through a channel, but what ended up happening was either the pliers or whatever tool I was using to run my wire through. Okay, I must have scraped it a little too hard, and because I cut it kind of long because I needed it to run it from all the way from the back where the battery was all the way to the front. And I didn't take heed to some of the things that I should have taken heed to and recheck and recheck. And I was so excited. And here's the thing, right, guys? Here's the thing that when you're already that close, excuse me, whenever you're that close and you're super excited to get it running, make sure you check everything and every little detail. Make sure you don't have any of those little singular wires sticking out of the jackets because, like I said, it happened to me twice where it fried two boards or even a component came off or something like that as well, right? So in good wire management, you have to make sure that you're careful on not to grab any of the other little components on the board as well. So if you're curling your wires, you know, map out sort of kind of where you're going with those wires because if you don't, you really run the risk of creating some problems for yourself. And I have done that to myself a lot of times. And and that's why I haven't really finished the memory saver because I create a lot of problems that I shouldn't be creating for myself. So this is where I parked my car. Euro trip reference. Oh, listen to this while training. Keep up the wizard talk. Oh, it's no wizard talk, man. This is just shit that happens. Man, I tell you, these guys, I mean, there's guys that can run circles around me anywhere, anytime, anyhow, man. And by no means am I even close to being, you know, um, a wonder maker of any of this. So, let's see. I hate when someone glues everything. How are you supposed to fix something? True. I don't think glue is meant for every little thing. It's just meant for some things, right? And I'll tell you, I'll give you an example, right? Because here, Jim, right? Let me see if I can kind of show this to you. I put a little bit of hot glue on here on this strip, right? And the only reason why I did that is because when this sits in the box one, I don't want any of this part of the wires to touch any part of that box one and just fry everything because it touches that metal. So the glue is the safest way, and it's not much on it. There's really not much on it, right? Very little, very little. But it's just enough to make sure. It's just enough to make sure that the metal is not gonna touch the wire on here and just fry everything. Because one little touch of these wires to the metal, and boom, there goes my board, right? Loose strand wires can cause trouble. It's happened to me as well. Yeah. Well, there we go, chat. See? Yeah, and I think it happens to everybody, I think it does happen to a lot of people, and especially when they first start out. But even happens to the seasoned veteran people too, right? Um, I know it. Anthony Space Windu has told me lots of times, and he's fried lots of boards just trying to run, wires through, and he gets done, and he checks and double checks, and there's still something that touches, and it fries things, and he's just like, "What? No!" And just simply because when you're running wires through even the smallest holes. And man, um, I'll give you another example. Like right here, right? I have a 3D printed from Goth 3D. This is a 26650 battery holder, right? And of course, I've soldered, the positive and negatives on here on the battery. So I've got the positive up here and the negative sticking out back here. What really is bad though, okay? What really is bad is because if this touches anything into the metal part of the saber, it'll fry everything big time. That's another reason why I decided to go with a 3D printed chassis instead of just this, because even though this fits into the back of the saber, it fits in this part really well. Okay, it fits in there really well, but I really do run the risk of um, I do run the risk of getting it touching in here. and I decided that this was not the best course of action to go along with the memory build. But since I already fried two boards, and I wasn't gonna let that happen anymore. So once I get this done, right, it should be better. Because now using the chassis like this, there's not gonna be many wires sticking out because the majority of the wires are going to be inside the other half of the build, and most of the wires will be either inside the plastics, right? And all the wires that are joined together that are going to be in the midsection where nobody can see will have um, shrink tubing and everything else so that nothing will be touching. And I'm going to have to definitely make sure that there are no wires sticking out. However, in running such of the wires going through, because when you use pliers, long nose needle pliers, and the different tools that you use to run wires with, right? And especially, um, and I think I have all my tools inside except one. So if you're using something like this to grab your wires with and pull wires through, right? I mean, it's got a bit of a sharp edge on it, right? It's got a bit of a sharp edge on it. So you really do have to be careful. So when you're running your wires through that you're not poking those jackets and letting one of those wires stick out. So really, if you're using these kind of tools, make sure you check to your wires. And also, like Jim said, and Chet and everybody else, shorten your wires. If you can, make sure that you utilize the shorter wires. The shorter, the more direct, the better, right? I really find that on my buttons here, okay, I still have to run a third wire. I thought I could get away with just using the negative just here and there. But on the board that I'm using, right, which is the Golden Harvest, I do have to make sure that even though I've got these two connected already, I'm going to have to use a third wire to kind of connect back to the negative here and run it out so that it goes out to the board. And it was like, I thought I could get away with just the two wires, but unfortunately I can't. I'm like, no, no. It would have been so much better and so much easier with just the two wires. Like shit. So what I'll probably end up doing is just attaching one to the negative on one of these buttons and then run it out like that, so that way that the buttons will be covered. And they work really good. So I checked them out, with the oh dude, let me see here. Um I use continuity to check it out and they work really well. Yeah. So I know that they work just like this. So if I was just to able hook this up, it would, you know, on another build that just used the two wires, that would have been perfect. But no. Now I finally found out though, like all my greens are gonna have to go together, all my blacks go together, and then wire everything up. But such small, and it's funny because you use a multitude of gauges in your builds, right? So Jim, you and Chet, you guys used what, four different gauges of wiring in your builds. I've seen about four gauges usually, right? So it's about 30 or 28. Then you have your 26 and then your 22, right? Um, I believe, and I guess depending on the build that you're doing, most of the stuff that you can get away with is the 30 gauge, and utilize your 22 gauge for your boards, your power, and your LEDs. More or less your pins, right? Usually three, but that's me. Well, see, three. So I think three should be more than adequate, though. Three is more than adequate, right? It's the 22, the 26, and the 30. Or what are your go-to gauges, Jim? Chet, what are yours? What are your go-to gauges? JT, Cindy, what are your go-to gauges, man? Jim says 23, 26, and 30. What? Oh, 26? Really? 23. Hmm. You don't use a 22? Use a 23? Huh. Is it is it smaller than is the 23 just a tad bit smaller than the 22, or is it a tad bit bigger? I think I think the bigger. It's bigger, right? Well, it depends on the build, and if I have the space just left, use 22 and 28. Okay. See, like with these strips right here, I have to use the 30 because they won't fit down into the box one just right the way I have it set up. Because anything bigger than this will be it won't fit in there on the side, and especially these, right? Otherwise, I'd go to a 26. Since he says 22, 26, 28, or 30, depending on what I have laying around. Do you all have like a big box of wires laying around just like I do? I'm having to look. I'm having to look for. I get wires. I've got a wire box. Oh, man, come here. Get out of there. I got a loose wire box right here, right? So I'm having to go through all this right here and make sure that I utilize all of this before I use anything else. So I'm really hoping I can get through all that mess first before I buy any more wire. Because I have actually what I did was here it is. Like all my 22 wires, right? This used to be a 30 gauge wire box that I had bought. And I said, no, I bought all my 22 wire gauges and I went ahead and I set them in like this so that I have my wire gauges just the same. Now I do have a few, I think I have a white and blue 30 gauge left in here. And that's just off to the side. Uh, oh, Jim says I might have that wrong. And so it is the 22 then, kid. Okay, that's what I thought, Jim. I was all like 23. That I've not heard anybody use 23. I thought that was kind of interesting though. I hate small angle wire for anything. Blink and it snaps. Yes, I agree. Right, the 30 gauge wire is super. I mean, it busts really easy, and and I hate it because it sucks. Even the PTFE, man, the PTFE 30 gauge wire sucks because it breaks real super easy, and I really don't like it. So I have to be ultra careful, and especially with these like this, and running through that box one. So when I'm running the LEDs right inside the box one, and then when I'm putting these. Because this will go off to one side and these will go off to the other side. And then I'll have to kind of squish them together like this, right? Because initially these LEDs are going to light up the switch box like this. Uh, since it's got the perforation in there and it'll light it up, right? So, but you have to be careful because you could actually pinch them and they not work properly either. So that's another beast in itself that I have is trying to make sure that the damn and I don't know if you can see this, and I'm gonna kind of show it to you up close a little bit if I can. But see how the wires are getting kind of pinched like this, and I have to literally before I go and put it back in, just kind of straighten it out again, just like this, before I put it into the box, so that that way I make sure that the wires are straight when I get them in there. Right, Cindy? We all knew. We all knew. So, and it really is a pain in the ass because you have to be yet firm yet gentle with these damn things, because otherwise they bust off real easy. Jim, it's funny though. I did think that 23. I like, man, interesting. 23 gauge. They need to make the gauges just like shotgun shells or even bullets, right? 223. Yeah, thin wire, man. It really sucks. I have to admit though, I like the 26. I like the 26 and I like the 22 gauge wire though. And especially the 22 gauge wire that is super thin. I mean it's small, but it's not too small, right? And I think I get my wires from PowerWorks. PowerWorks has a really good wires. Um, and they as a matter of fact, I probably need to get some more 26 gauge um and some 30 gauge anyway. Um, I do have some 30 gauges, but not a whole lot. I do have a lot of 30 gauge, uh, probably green and blues, so I'll have to utilize all of those before I get any more. Especially, I got, well, the 30 gauge wires are really good for the, um, what do you call them? The speakers, right? Speaker wires. I think they're pretty decent for the speaker wires and the buttons, of course. But when you're running the wires through small areas, and let me see. Oh, okay. So let's take TCSS, the 21700 chassis that they make, right? So if you're running your wires through, okay, and you're running through the channels, and of course I don't run the wires through these channels because I run the piping through here. Um, I run the piping through here so that the 440 rods fit in here, and and the pipes take out away from the from the 440 look. And in here, right? Let me get right up in here. I don't know. So see in these channels, and you run inside the channels there, it's a pretty tight fit. It's a pretty tight fit. I mean, the 22 gauge fits pretty decent, but it is harder than hell to run it properly without, really messing it up. Because I see that in running some of this wire, right? Here's a 26 gauge right here, and I'm going to run. Let me see if I can run it. Uh, Let me see. I don't have my deals with me. Um, every all my let me see. Yeah, well, most of my tools are inside right now, so that's. Let me see if I can even just get it started in there. Mm, See, that's one thing. It's just a pain in the ass. Let me see if I can just run it in one channel and try to get it in there. Here we go. Here we go. Let me see. Get in there. Push it. Nope. Do fat 20 for everything. Fat 20 for everything, huh? That's hilarious, Jim. I wish it was possible to do fat 20 for everything, right? It would make it so much easier. You wouldn't have to worry about this gauge and that gauge or whatever. You just one straight gauge and get everything done, right? Jesus, man, I tell you, this is yeah. See, and without my needle nose pliers right now, it is tough getting that in there. But let's try. Let's see if this one's gonna work. Do 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 do. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, that's why it wasn't really going in. Huh. It's kind of clogged up. What? Are you serious? Okay. So, I tell you, Harris once told me not all wire is created equal, right? Garden hose. See, there we go. No wonder I couldn't get that wire going in through there because there was some paint clogging it up. So, okay. No wonder. No wonder. Oh, even that one's all clogged up right there too. Jeez. I have to open those up. Let me see. Do 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 do. Does it even open on this side, or is it? It probably just open for that on that side. Yeah. See, and I've got it. I've got the paint all kind of. I have to open these up right here. So, so if you're painting a chassis, okay, that's another thing. If you're painting the chassis and you do not open those channels that are supposed to be open properly, you run that risk of getting your wires scraped and everything else in between. I need to straighten that out. So let me see if I can get it to run through that hole. And I can hear you guys screaming at me right now. Mundo, say it isn't so. No, don't do it that way. Do it this way. Space Windows in the house. Hail Space, the creator of Mundo Madness Monday. Hail Space. Hail Space. He is watching us. He is on, people. Such an awesome person, man. I tell you. And hey, Space. I hope you had a great birthday, man. I hope you had a great birthday. It looked like you did. It looked like you had an awesome day, dude. Uh, so I am running this thing, and I will get in there. I shall get it in there. Oh, and Space, dude, whenever I get the money to send it to you, man, I'll send you those blades, but a little something that I got you for your birthday too, dude. Uh, unless you want some more alcohol. But I think you might like this other little gift a little bit better. So we'll see. I'll kind of send you a little pic on it a little bit later. Yeah, I think you'll like it. It has to do with karate. We'll see how you like it. Okay. So, running it through. Okay. See the channel right there? Now, I just did this, and this is I believe it's, let's see, Mundo says your chest is so badass. I saw a preview from JD. Oh, dude. That, man. That is awesome. That's good news, dude. That is good news. Oh, I tell you, that's you know, I can't thank you guys enough too, man. Um, you know, I commissioned space for a, you know, a Graflex, and to my surprise, JAD kind of put some things into it as well. So, you know, by the grace of God, thank you guys. I just, you know, wow. I'm like floored that he did that, man. Um, okay, so going back, and you see the channel there, so you see the 22 gauge wire in there, right? I finally got it run through. And I didn't use any tools to get in there. It's just my hand, right? Just finagling it in there. Um, but it is a different kind of 22 gauge. Um, it is definitely a lot thinner than most of the other gauge 22 gauge wires that I have, right? And like I said, Harris told me that not all wire is created equal. Some are thicker than others, even in the same kind of gauge. So depending on the company that you go with, you know, it really shows. If you go to two different wire companies and you look at their 22 gauges, the 26 gauges, or whatever you will, right? Compare them. Compare them, because if the jacket, if you have a thicker jacket for one and the other one is a thinner jacket, you might need to say, hey, wait a minute, okay, I like this company, but this other company has the thinner jacket to run through things, right? So as you see here with this wire that I just put in there by hand, no tools, you know, on my last chassis build, I had to utilize tools, and it was kind of rough to wire it in, right? As a matter of fact, it's the Vader. Uh, what did I do? I think I do not have it near me. I think I put it up in a box already. But and I've shown you guys in several other shows, which is the Vader build, right? Chassis. And let's see, the for speaker accent LEDs, you can use 28 or 30. See, space, yeah, space is really good with that. So um, I've used a couple of 26 gauges on speakers simply because I got tired of the damn 30 gauge breaking on me every time I would move the speaker a little bit to get it set in place, it would come off. And I got really tired. So I started using 26 gauge. Um, not, I think it was 26 gauge. Yeah. 26 gauge wire for the speakers, right? Simply because I do have the room for that. Um, I do have the room for that, but I wanted to utilize the 26, even though it was a little thicker. Uh, I find that it held a lot better than the 30, because if something were to pull off and that 30 just was not working for me, and I got so frustrated, I said, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna use the 26 gauge, and the 26 gauge worked, and it worked good. So I was like, okay, I'll go for the 26. Now, if I can't use the 26, then I'll use the 30 gauge. Um, but I have to be a lot of I have to be really, really careful on how I'm using the 30 gauge into it, because I tend to pull a little too hard sometimes. You run the risk of having that's another thing with your wire management. You really do run the risk of let's say if you're wiring from the board and you run all your wires through all your little nooks and crannies and get them to wherever you need them to do, and you pull a little too hard, you run that risk of pulling from the board and messing up your board as well. Um, I did that, I believe, on a 5.1 prism before. I had everything in one little wire. One little wire. I pulled it a little too hard. I don't remember which wire it was, but I pulled it a little too hard, and it pulled that pad off just right to where I couldn't use it anymore. I'm all like, no, no. So I'm all like, ah, there goes that board. So yeah, I mean, just if you're running in tight spaces, right? If you're running in tight spaces, I think it's very appropriate to run the 30 gauge for your switches, 30 gauge for your speakers, 30 gauges for your switches. Now, if you have the room, use the 26. Yeah. Do you have that a lot, Space? You get that a lot, dude? I don't know if you do or not, but man, I would say like whenever you get to doing some of those things and on the board and you're like just pull it just a little too much and then you have to go back and resolder and if you pull it too hard then you mess up that pad, right? I mean, these boards are so sensitive. Now, Jim and you guys, do you all, depending on the build, do you wire up your board first, or do you wire everything up and then hook it up to the board? Because I did kind of like I'm doing like half and half with this memory build again. Because I thought about doing it all the way from the board and then doing it that way, and I'm all like, well, I don't want to mess up the board that way. Used to happen to me when I was less experienced and the boards were more expensive back then. Yeah, yeah, and because I'm learning a lot from, and I learned a lot from Space, man, because I asked him a ton of questions, man. God bless him, putting up with me. Everybody putting up with me and asking questions, man. But that's how you learn, right? You learn, but you don't just keep asking questions either. I mean, you have the wires prepped and ready, coming from every component, and then attached to the board. Yeah, okay. To build a Saber again, and I have not built one since 2019. Oh, wow, Jim, really? I'm surprised, man. I thought you'd be building like left and right. Yeah, Space. I've gotten so much better, Uh, practicing on all those cheat boards made me realize and all the wire, and I still continue to practice soldering wires, small wires together. I mean, I'm doing much better than I have ever done before. So I've gotten pretty good to where I can just do it once and be done with it. So that's another thing. Make sure that you do practice. If you're just starting out, practice on a different board, practice on wires, practice on whatever you can get. And this is for the newbies. I mean, it pertains for a lot of people, but more or less the newbies, right? If you're just starting out, Felicia, this goes for you too, Mama. So get wires, get junk wires. If you have old laptops and stuff like that, take them apart. If you're gonna throw them away, take them apart. Grab some stuff and just practice on soldering, desoldering. Get If you want to go to like your local hardware store, get some wires to practice with, or go to your local electronics store. Get you some items, get you some wires, cheap. Get you some. You can buy wire for like 250, 450, something like that a foot, right? Get you a good, cheap soldering iron. You can get one at what, Hobby Lobby. Get you. As a matter of fact, let me see. Do I have it in here? I probably don't. But Hobby Lobby offers, their soldering irons, and they're good to start out with. They're not good when you get better and you're going to use your board. Those from Hobby Lobby, just after you're ready to start doing a board, chunk those and get you a good soldering iron that you can, fluctuate your temperature so that you find out what works best for you, right? Because the quicker that you can put your wires in there, run your wires, solder them together, get your heat going on the shrink tubing, and make sure that there's no wire sticking out or whatever. The faster and the shorter distance that you can do that in, the better and the cleaner look it will be. I am still learning how to do a clean build, right? I am still learning, and I will get there. Perseverance will prevail. I will get there. And when I get this damn memory saber the way it should be, my friend, I guess, is kicking my ass about it because he is being stubborn. He won't let me finish it. He doesn't want me to finish it for whatever reason, but that's okay. I'm going to finish it so I can move on to the next saber. You have to account for some problems too when you're running your wires. Okay, you're gonna run into the part where they crinkle up. You're gonna run into the part where they just snap or whatever have you will, and you got to rerun it and straighten them out however you will. Yeah, I mean, utilize different methods to run them into the channels that they need be, right? And if you have to run your wire into the channel first, run your wire into the channel first and then work it that way. There's no one right way and no one wrong. I mean, there's always all kinds of wrong ways to do it, right? Jim says the UA 8 853D currently 199. Jim, I have the 8786D, my friend, and I tell you, it is badass, and I really enjoy it, man. Look at that. Let me see. Hee and get over here. There you go. I mean, it is cool. Now, I really wish, yeah, it's everything I need. Now, I really do wish actually that I had gotten the one with the power deal, right? With the power grid to it so that I could utilize. But I find that I can buy one of those power grid deals um to not like I think 60 70 bucks, right? Where you can do your amps and everything. Um if I had gotten the one with the one with the iron, the hot air station and the amp station all in one, I think that would have been like 180. They were having a special on it. Right after I bought this one, I was so mad because they had a special on that one for like 190 or something like that, right? It was like 30% off or something, and I was all like, "Damn it! I just got this one. What the hell?" So, but it is super cool. I love it, man, because of the temperature that you can adjust to. I mean, it is extremely well worth the money. It is extremely. I think that's another important factor is that with your wire management, you need a good soldering iron, right? Yeah, back in January, the 853 was on sale for, see, 179. There you go. That's what it was. That's what it was, right? But it also had the amp station with it as well, so that you could do your amps on however many amps you need, plug in the power and all that stuff. It had all of that all together for that price. And I was so mad because I had just bought this one. I think just a little under that. I think it was like 150 something, right? Or 170 something. Um, it was 170, I think it was. Yeah, it's a 3-in-1. Right. Correct, Jim. And it was like, man, I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, it just a couple of more days. If I hadn't ordered that one, I would have been able to get the 3-in-1 and I would have had everything all together. But it's okay because I plan on getting the power station anyway. So I can just add to this one and it'll be fine. So it'll be fine. I've actually got somebody getting like I was talking about for my workbench, right? They're printing me some hookups to the bench so that I can insert it on the other side and I can run a shelf on there. So in running the shelf, I'll be able to put the power station, I'll be able to put the iron and everything all together and have everything that I need and leave my workbench all completely clear of debris and whatever I need to utilize for working on the Sabers open, and it'll be that much better. And that's another thing. That's another point comes to wire management. Keep your workspace clean. Don't be like me. I've got things all over the place, and I absolutely hate it. I hate it because if you don't keep the workspace clean, you also run the risk of touching something together that you shouldn't be touching, possibly frying your board, possibly ruining your strips. I mean, ruining your pins, right? Ruining your pins. So, make sure you have not Jim. So good wire management also means keeping your workspace clean as well, right? Don't be like me. That's why I can't wait to get my shelf so I can just get my stuff cleaned out and working good because it happens when you're in the middle of cleaning your garage too. So shame on me, right? Shame on me. It's all good though. And like I said, every build is different and every chassis is going to be different. Every build has its challenges. And every chassis that somebody prints has definitely got its challenges on getting some of those wires in there. One of the things that some people run into as well when they're doing the wire management, you can pre-cut all your wires, right, and have them ready. And you may be just slightly off the allotted length, right? And I hate that crap because then I think, for example, right, I'll measure out a wire and I'll come right here and I'll come to the chassis, end of the chassis, and I'm thinking, okay, right, I got the wire right here and it's only going to be this far back and I can cut it to about right there and it'll stick out enough where I can put it on the board. But guess what? It's too short sometimes. I'm like, damn. So check, recheck, and cut once. Man, you know, proper wire management. I mean, you could also do what I do sometimes, but it's not recommended, is leave it quite a bit long. And then when you exactly know where you're going to hit on that board, use kind of like a pinch method, like like I'll hold the wire up to the board with the pinch like this, and then I'll cut my wire so that I know exactly where it states with the pad on the board. People with a neat workstation glue everything down. Those with messed workstations make beautiful, neat wired chassis builds. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jim. Definitely need that vote of confidence, dude. I am definitely a very messy man when it comes to workstation stuff. It is very messy, and I know I'm gonna have to clean it really well though when I start uh doing some blades to redo my blade and sending uh eventually I'd like to do a TriStar. I would love to learn to do a TriStar. That'd be kind of fun to do. I think doing a TriStar would be fun, right? It'll be a lot of fun, man. A TriStar would be a lot of fun to work on, and it'll be good to have here. And forgive me, guys, because I'm not going to do the saber tonight, even though I want to. I've got it sitting on the wall right now, and I just don't feel like getting up and getting it. But I am going to get up and grab me another beer, and y'all can see all this lovely decor behind me. It's kind of true though. You feel so bad about the workstation that you make Sabers pretty. Laugh out loud. I guess you're right, Jim. I mean, I can't complain about that. I guess you're right. I mean, yeah, I work with what I got, right? Work with what I got. But man, it is so much. And I don't know about you guys, but wiring, soldering the wires together. Excuse me. Let me go grab me a beer, and you can still hear me talk. I'll be out of the picture for just a minute, but you'll still be able to hear me talk, and it won't take long to grab another one. Um, but I don't know how you guys feel, but wiring, learning to solder the wires together, it is super relaxing for me, right? And I think maybe I think for me, maybe just not finishing this damn build is just kind of because I am tending to beer 30. Yeah, I wish it was beer 30, but no, this is only beer 2. I'm falling down on the job, dude. Nah, man, I just I think I we a lot of stress goes away when I'm soldering the wires, right? Working on the build. And I'm wondering if maybe it's because I, d- I think if I finish the memory saber completely, even though I have the others to work on, it kind of takes away from it, if you know what I mean, right? This sentimentality of it. No, I mean, it'll be much better when it's working and everything. However, just working on the wiring and everything, it really does me well because I forget about what's going on in the world. I forget of everything around me. Now you can't really do that too much too. I mean, you can't just take away from your responsibilities for doing this stuff. But if you do it like full time, right? Hey Titan, nah, you ain't super late, dude. Nobody's ever super late, dude. Come on, you ought to know that. If the show's over, it's all right. It's all good. No worries, dude. Everybody's got things to do, and I totally understand it. I'm just grateful that I'm able to do this at 8:30 now instead of 9:45, right? I'm just happy to be home an hour earlier and where I can catch a little bit more of an audience. And so Titan, so we're talking about wire management, right? What are your go-to gauges, Titan? Are you? Oh, wait a minute. You still have yet to build, right? I forgot. I am so sorry. You still have yet to build one, but you're going to build one, right? So I think, and we're talking about the different gauges, Titan, right? Um, so when you're building and you're starting to build, utilize the 26 gauge, the 22 gauge, and the 30 gauge for your builds. Now, depending on the type of build you use, maybe your 28 will work, your 26 might work, um, right, and your 30s for your buttons, for your um, LED, not your LEDs, but more or less for everything else. Yeah, you have yet to build. Okay. So more or less important thing is that your boards are going to run your pins and your board more or less are going to be your 22s, right? Your battery, your board, and your pins are the 22s. Everything else you're going to utilize your 30, your 26, or 28 for everything else, right? And in wire management, depending on the space and the build that you're going to use, depends on what you're going to utilize in terms of gauge for your wires, right? So on this right here, I'm utilizing 30 gauge wires for this. On my buttons, on my buttons, I'm using 30 gauge wires, right? And on all my accent LEDs will have 30 gauge wires, right? So they will all come together. So the only thing that I'm going to utilize in the memory build for the power is 22 and 26. I think I'm using 26 for um no, it is 22. I'm sorry. It's a great here. So this is the 22 gauge, right? 22 gauge wire right here. And that is going to go onto your recharge port. Um, and you can decide if you want to use, some people I've seen utilize the same color wires, but I guess they know exactly where everything's going. Me, I couldn't keep track of that stuff like that. So I have to utilize the different colors so I know exactly where I'm going to go. And well, man, I guess the wind's picking up out here. Jesus. Oh my God, been an hour already. Jesus. That's unbelievable. I've already been yapping that long. Be nice, people. Be nice. I yap all the time anyway. Now, Titan, do you have any question? Titan, do you have any questions as a eventually when you're gonna build? What is the one question about wire management do you have? Do you have any questions about wire management? As I was showing earlier, um, right on I have a 21700 chassis from TCSS, and all I did was run this wire with my fingers, right through the. You can see the channels right here, right? The little triangles right there, the channels that will run the wire through, right? Um, One of the things that I was kind of explaining into your wire management as well is if you are planning to paint, hand paint, or just spray paint in general, or whatever have you will, your chassis and so forth, make sure that you don't have anything in the channels to block anything like that. Because if you have any sort of blockage in there, you're going to crinkle your wires, or you may tear your wires, the jackets or so forth. If it's a tight space, make sure that when you're utilizing your tools that you're not going to rip that jacket off, because one single strand that touches the metal part of your saber will fry your board. You may have it on for maybe an hour or two, or maybe even 5 or 10 minutes, and then it just quits working. So it could be a possibility that you have one single strand sticking out of those jackets that just fries everything. So make sure that when you do start, do some practice runs. Get you a few things that you can, this would be a good thing to start out with, is to buy, a chassis like this from TCSS, and just practice running your stuff with your hand, with your tools, so that you get a little practice of doing your wires like that, right? You should have a binder or notepad to write down what goes where, and keep the notes in case the saber needs to be opened up in a year, and you won't remember a year from now what is what. That's a good idea, Space. I never thought about that, honestly. Honestly, I never thought about that. Hilt on Space Windows latest post. Oh yeah, right? I mean, it's a badass post. It's a badass hilt. It is. It's amazing, man. I mean, Space comes up with some amazing stuff, dude. And that's true. Yeah, right stuff. And I'm bad about that, man. I am very bad about that. I don't write anything down, and I should. I really do. I really don't. So take it from them, dude. Titan. Take it from Jim, take it from Space, dude. That these guys, they run circles around me any day, dude. And that's a good idea. I should really start doing that. I really should. Yeah, I have. Yeah, and that's the thing. I write things down in terms of thinking about a saber that I want to build, and I write it down like the Godzilla build that I want to do. I wrote that down. I can write shit like that down, but I cannot write shit of you know my wiring stuff and everything like that. And I just another thing is what I did do recently though. I'll tell you, one of the things that I did do recently is that I got pictures of like the Golden Harvest board and I blew them up. I printed them out on my printer and I started kind of going with like where all my wires go in terms of like all the green wires together and uh all the black wires where they're all going to connect to where my recharge port what wires go to my recharge port and then go to the board and then go to the battery and stuff like that. I'm slowly turning to doing that. I actually just got a binder. And funny space that you're saying that, right? Because I just got a binder and I started doing those kind of things because I can't draw worth a crap. I couldn't even draw to save my life, dude. And so so I ended up blowing up some of those pictures of the Golden Harvest board and started making notes on okay, this is 22 gauge. This wire goes to the recharge port. And I still haven't got everything together. I finally just now know where I'm going to map everything out and do it that way, right? You label your wires, I suppose. I do. I actually do, Jim. I label mine in terms of like when I get all the wires together and I start separating them where the board's going to be and I'll write them down and as a matter of fact, I use the painter's tape just like this, right? So, and I've got it written on here. This is the one of the accent LEDs. I've got it written on here. And oh, see? Wow. I bet it is huge, dude. I bet it is huge. And so like the board's going to come out here. So all my wires will be out here. And when I start putting it into the saber itself or part of the middle part, right? So this will stick into the middle part right here, and all the wires are going to come out right here. The pins will go in here, and then I'll start separating like once I get all the wires in, I will start separating all the different um, greens, all the different reds and blue and blacks all together so that I can get them all together, run them all together where I need to run them, and so forth. So I'm slowly learning that process so that I can have better wire management, right? Let me see if I can get these poking out here because I shoved those wires in here and I should have just left them out the way I had them. Yeah, because do I have, well, I can do it this way. So, as I'm saying, when you utilize these, right, when you utilize these, make sure you just be careful how you pull your wires so that you don't mess up the jackets. So, and check, make sure that none of these wires are even scratched or whatever, heavy wheels, so that you don't get anything, fry anything, so forth. So those will run the LED right here, my accent LED in the you I dig that type of meticulousness. You do have to be kind of meticulous, Felicia, when you start learning how to do this. I find I find you do have to be sort of very meticulous on things. Because if you're not meticulous, you run into the problems like I did of frying your boards. And Space has, encouraged me that, he's fried a few boards and that it's a rite of passage to fry a few boards here and there when you're learning, right? It can get expensive, so um, make sure that get a cheaper board first to do, and then you can go to your higher ones. My problem was I went to the higher ones before I went to the cheaper one. But I like the Golden Harvest. Golden Harvest is a good board. I mean, it's a good starting board. So, Felicia, start out with a Golden Harvest and go from there, right? I don't think you'll be disappointed in that, and have that as your starting point. Now, you can go even better. Uh, you can go and do a Verso, which is even a little bit, I think it's a little bit cheaper as well. I think it's what the Verso board now is a two version two now. I think it is, or is it up to a version three? I don't know. Haven't kept up with it yet, and I still need to buy a Verso. I still have yet to buy a Verso because I really do want one. I want to be able to have a multitude of different boards to try out, right? And each board is different because then again, you have to do certain different wire management with each different board as well. Like the Golden Harvest has some big pads, right? Whereas your CFX has smaller pads. And so you really do a book collector, and that's cool to think Saber building coincides with that world. Oh, it does. It does, right? I just saw not too long ago was a book of the High Republic Sabers. I think they came out with now. I'm not sure. I thought I saw something like that. Either Old Republic or High Republic Sabers. And I think eventually I'm gonna purchase that book to go with the other Saber book that I have. Um, but like I said, each board comes with the different kind of pads. I don't know how big the pads are on the Verso. Like I said, I have yet to work on a Verso and buy a Verso. Eventually, I'm going to. Right now, I just got a lot of things going on where I can barely get anything. For me, I think the soldering will be a challenge. Nah, Titan, believe me, dude. If I can do it, you can do it. And dude, I'm dyslexic. I can barely see and everything else. I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can. Currently, oh, V3 coming soon. Whoa. Yeah, it's got. I know it's a two. I just wasn't sure if V3 was here yet or not. Like I said, I haven't even kept up with it. I've got to even keep up with Cal on all of his progress on his building, man. I saw one video and it's like, oh my god, he's done a lot. He's done a lot, man. That's crazy, man. How much he's done. It is crazy how much he has done. So, yeah, Titan. I tell you, dude, if are you close to any computer stores or electronic stores? Are you close to any of those? Once the building is done, V3 might be in January. Yeah, I believe it, Jim. I think he's gonna go for much higher versions of the Verso eventually. Okay, so Titan, if you are okay, I tell you what, if you now you can get a weller if you don't. Do you have any of the tools yet or not yet? It depends on other things. Yeah, I'm sure it does. I think he's not gonna put too much on emphasis on it, Jim, simply because of he wants to keep it at a certain price range for people so that it stays an entry level board. No, okay. Um, So Titan, I mean, this is just a recommendation. I'm not trying to tell you what to do or anything because it's really all up to you, okay? And I would in my personal thing is I did one thing at a time. I bought one component at a time as far as the tools go, right? Um, and I started out with a Hobby Lobby, uh, just solder and iron. I don't even know if I even have it in here or not, but um, yeah, it's in another bag. I think I was gonna give it away to somebody actually. Um, Matter of fact, Felicia, I might just send you that, Mama. That particular soldering iron, just to start out with, right? But Titan, yes, Tamundo, you listen. Uh, it is, and especially if you don't have much money, okay? It's not something that you have to be in a rush for. It's not good. This hobby is going to be here for a very long time. So it's not something you have to rush for. But if you're like me, you got to save up money here and there. Buy one component at a time, right? Buy you a pair of strippers first, okay? Get that. Then let's say you go to, getting you some of these, right? Go to your local hardware store. If you have, or even a Harbor Freight, if you have a Harbor Freight, get you some of these. They're cheap. They're like what, two, three, maybe $4 at most. So these are great so that you can grab your wires. If you can't use your pliers, your needle nose pliers or anything else, and you need to try to grab some wires out, these are great to pull the wires out through things, right? But just make sure because they are sharp at the tips, you either put something on a tip here or kind of just dull them down. Um, Dull them down, and if you don't dull them down, just be very careful on how you pull your wires through. So just to kind of give you a short and small idea of what I'm talking about, I'll utilize this since I already have the wire in here, and I don't know if I can do this uh, with the camera like this. Let me see. I'm gonna just kind of turn it around, and I'm gonna uh, man, let me see. Okay, so see how I have it like this? Right. So if you need to pull your wire out, let's say you're just kind of, your wire broke and you need to just replace that whole wire, but you can't get it with your fingers. So it's good to use something like this and just kind of pull your wire out of there. You see that? Harbor Freight beginning soldier kit. Yeah, exactly. So go to Harbor Freight if you have a Harbor Freight and get you some stuff like that. You can get cheap boards anywhere online or wherever. You can even get you some boards there at your local electronic shop and just go to town on those, man. Just practice your soldering. Um, like I did, I just got boards and I soldered to the holes and I soldered until I got to where I had flat soldier beads instead of big ass beads. I used to have massive holes on beads on soldier on those boards, and it's crazy. And let me see. Hold on here. Let me take that off. And I have think. Mm, 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 mm. Did I put? Oh, I did. I moved them. I moved them. I moved them. I moved them. And where did I move them to? See, I'm always constantly moving things when I shouldn't even really be moving things. Man, come here. Let's see. Maybe I'll have one sticking around here. Maybe. Let me see. Do I have it in here? No. No. So my point is, dude, though, is don't be in a rush to buy everything. Don't think that you've got to hurry and buy this and buy that. One of your tools, this is good. Like if you drill and you get those burrs and everything, one of these you got to have one of these. So if you ever drill your holes and stuff like that, very good to utilize this tool. And then also uh, tweezers to run things through if they grab right, just right. Uh, different wire cutters, right? Scissors. I mean, there's a multitude of tools that you can use and utilize to get the job done. And let me see. Ah, okay. For instance, I started cutting this board right here so that I can put these on the box ones, but something like this, I would get and I would run I would solder each and every hole right there until I got just a very small dome, right? Searching in campfires. Shit, that's you. That is me every day, man. I mean, I couldn't find my ass if it wasn't attached to me, dude. I tell you. But yeah, um, I tell you, Titan, this is the best way to do things is get boards like this, right? And just when you get your soldering iron, just practice each and every hole. And then when you feel comfortable soldering to that, get you some wires and start soldering to the board, right? Just start soldering to the board. And it doesn't matter if you screw up or not. This is how you're going to improve. And this is for you too, Felicia, since you haven't started anything yet. You know, just small stuff at a time, right? One step at a time, and don't rush it. Don't get in a hurry. That was my biggest problem. I tried to run before I could crawl, right? Yeah, see, Jim's got that learning board stuff on there. That's some great advice. That's some great stuff there. And even Adafruit's got some very good videos out, and YouTube's got hundreds of learning videos on how to soldier and everything. And I utilize those too. I utilized a lot of things learning when I first started, you know, and I'm still learning things. And it's a never ending learning process because you're always going to learn something new, something different, right? And it's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun. And when you really get into it, I tell you, it's you may feel intimidated right now, Titan, Felicia. I'm telling you, you may feel a little intimidated about it, but when you start doing it, I tell you, it's for me, it's super relaxing. So, but just take it one step at a time and learn your gauges too. While you're doing in between stuff, while you're buying your stuff in between, learn your gauges so that when you know what you can put together, right? What how it feels when you're soldering two wires together, especially, you know, the difference between a good joint and a cold joint. You'll get to see those differences as you're learning. And it makes a world of difference because it's really crazy how you can see the progression when you start really learning this stuff. You can see the progression as it goes. And you tend to get more confidence in yourself. I got a lot of confidence in myself when I actually took, oh yeah, helping hands is a must. This is a must, okay? They come with the top where it has, you know, you- the little here thing on top where you can see better, but I always take it off because it's just too much of a damn hindrance. So I always take off the mirror there. So, but I tell you, you take two pieces of wire, put them in here, put them together, solder them. pull apart. If you can't pull apart with certain amount of pressure, it's a good soldier. All right. So that's when you're really going to gain your confidence. Okay. But it's also a way to train you to make sure that you don't pull too hard either, because then you can, like with the 30 gauge wire, you can really break it very easy, right? Even though it may be a good joint, you'll break it pretty easy because those wires are very, very, very slim and they do not hold up well too many times if you pull too hard. So, got to learn your balance on stuff. Balance, Daniel-san, balance. I feel amazed when I replace the faulty bulb in my Christmas lights, and I can't imagine building a saber one day. Felicia, believe me, when you build your first saber, oh, you're gonna feel 1,000 times happier, better, elated. You're gonna feel elated when you turn that saber on for the first time. I tell you, I kid you not. When I first built that memory saber and it turned on for the first time, I pulled that kill key and I heard my friend tell me, "Que pasa, mama?" I cried. I cried like a damn baby, you know. But again, I was plagued with that wire situation, and here I am still kind of trying to get it working right. And I will get it though. I will get it. My only problem right now is I've got one of those damn 256 screws stuck in my box one and I cannot get it out. I bought one of those damn easy out screw things and it is not working the way I thought it would. So, yeah, and it's getting hot in here. So I am trying to figure out how to get it out of there. Hilt's power switch. Angels sing. Light shines from heaven. Yes. They do, man. Oh, I can't. No, don't let me do that again, Cindy. If I do that again, shoot me, please, because I don't want to bust anybody's eardrums. Where is You know what? I need to get Yoda, right? To Yoda, we must listen to, right? Right? What do you say, Yoda? Good wire management, right? Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He is so right. Yoda is so right. You either do it or you don't do it, right? Your first build will be awesome, and everyone's build after will feel just as good. Exactly, Chet. It'll feel good. I mean, I can't wait to get the rest of these working, man. It's just been too long for me to have them here and not have them working. But of course, and again, here's one of the most important tips I'm going to tell you as well. Okay, if you're on a budget, this you got to remember, this is a hobby. You're not doing this for your job, right? You're not doing it. You're doing this for yourself, and you're on a budget. You got to save up for each component. Save up for each component. Buy what you need to buy. Save up again. Buy your next component. Do it in stages. This is not a rat race. You are not in a rush to start building like people do, when, the saber builders that they crank out, build after build after build. They've already seasoned. They already know what they're doing. They've been doing it so long, it is just second nature. They just go from one to the thing to the next. They have their system down to a T, right? They have their system down to a T. So don't compare yourself to anybody else either. You want to do it, you do it for yourself, and you don't do it for anybody else but yourself. And eventually, when you get good, then you can do. I have 1 hour to go. It's been, oh my God, it's almost an hour and a half. Um, man, I tell you, okay, just take your time, and like Rob Petkow says, you know, you rush it, you wreck it, right? I don't think truer words have been said, and I think I've rushed my memory saber a little bit when I first started because I really wanted to get it, hurry up and do it, and this and that, and I didn't take my time with it, and I paid the price. And now that I understand a little bit more of what really needs to be done, I can never mind. um, I think, I can take my time and make sure that I do the build well this time, right? Um, I'm not going to rush it, and the time that it's going to take will be even better because it will be much better. In the first half, I've got the first half all ready to go. I just need the chassis done. So this half is already wired and ready to go. So this part is completely done. It is just the second half that I need to take care of and get it done. Oh, I definitely need to make sure that I get these uh, cleaned up here on the threads. That's another thing. Make sure that when you're running your threads and everything, if there's any dust on your threads or whatever, make sure you go back to your threads. And if you have any dust on your wires, clean your wires up a little bit before you run them through so you don't have any of that dust, dirt, and everything else in there as well. Um, super important to make sure that you have everything as clean as possible in terms of that stuff because that can wreak havoc. The dirt can wreak havoc on your wires as well. If it's built up on your wires, you're gonna have a hard time running them through stuff. Or if it's built up built up in your chassis. So make sure things are clear, clean, and all that good stuff. So that is for good, proper wire management as well, right? Well, guys, I tell you what, I thank you guys so much, Felicia and Space Windu and Jim. I mean, all you guys. Thank you, Titan. Everybody here tonight. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight for this Cindy. Um, I tell you what, I just couldn't be more blessed. And again, like I said, I have to thank Space for allowing me to do this show. JT and Charlie, again, thank you guys so much for hanging out and listening to a still a newbie in its own right. You know, make sure that any newbies that come around and listen to this channel, thank you so much. I appreciate you listening in, hanging out with us. You can also make sure you like and subscribe to Space Window at Civilized Sabers, um, on Instagram, and you can also like and subscribe, here and then on the Mundo channel as well. Um, Mundo Cabrera at Mundo Cabrera 7007 for Instagram. And you can also, if you guys want to hang out, if you got something you want to talk to me about, anything else, you can always email me at e_Cabrera, CABRERAIII at yahoo.com. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me on Monday nights. And I'm going to try to do this as many Monday nights as possible. I do have family obligations. So when I do not come on a Monday night, make sure that it will be family related or, there's just something going on that has to have my attention. So from here on, I'm going to band out and I will see you next Monday. Hopefully, God willing, will be a lot of fun. Mundo out. Peace.
Indiana, report.